You're listening to the IWD406 Podcast with your host, Julie Walls, where we celebrate, empower, and connect women across Montana and beyond. Join us as we share inspiring stories, valuable insights, and the voices of remarkable women making a difference in their communities. Today on the podcast, we are going to meet Laura Fisher, the creative force behind RevivALL Clothing. From the wide open skies of Montana to the heart of sustainable fashion, Laura Fisher is redefining what it means to dress with purpose. As the owner and founder of RevivALL Clothing, she's on a mission to bring slow fashion to hardworking women who refuse to choose between function and femininity. Since launching RevivALL in 2008, Laura has been turning reclaimed fabrics and materials into timeless, practical pieces that honor both the past and the present. Whether you're wrangling horses, tending a homestead, or simply embracing life's wild adventures, her designs are made to keep up and look good doing it. When she's not crafting beautiful, sustainable clothing, you'll find Laura at home in Bozeman, Montana, surrounded by her husband, her stepdaughter, 2 bunnies, and 4 horses. She's proof that fashion isn't just about what you wear, it's about how you live. Get ready to be inspired by Laura Fisher and the story behind RevivALL Clothing. Welcome, Laura. I'm so excited.
So excited to be here. That was an amazing introduction.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Oh, I love this. You are fantastic. And you know that I've just looked so forward to seeing you and talking to you again.
It feels really special to just even think back at my accomplishment.
Yeah, and I cannot wait to talk about all that. I know we've had a pre-chat, and and your energy is so beautifully bright, and you are so witty. You're witty and funny, and I love that. I love that.
You gotta be able to laugh.
You do.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna start, and first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing. So talk to me a little bit about, are you a true Montanan, or where did you grow up?
I grew up in Maryland.
Okay.
So, I've been in Montana for a little over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, talk to me a little bit. What part of Maryland did you grow up in?
I grew up outside of Columbia. So I grew up in the suburbs, and everybody had 1.5 to 3 acres, but we couldn't have horses at our place. And so I always was leasing horses at other barns. And then when I was very little, I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house because my parents were both working full time, and I'm an only child. So and my grandma, she's the one that taught me how to sew and everything creative. So that was pretty special.
Were you like, and I know a lot of kids grew up latchkey kids, so you're like free roaming. No. I know. But you had grandma. Did you go to school and then you go run over to her house? Is that what you did?
No, she would pick me up. So I was very opposite of latchkey. My parents were like, eye on me at all.
Good. I love that. Yes. I hear you.
Yeah.
And so you spent a lot of time with grandma, and then obviously, so tell me a little bit about grandma. I want to hear about her. Was she one of your bigger influences growing up about in regards to being creative and thinking bigger? Okay, talk to me about that.
She never, at that time, this was in the 80s. I was growing up in the 80s, and it wasn't, having a career in the creative world was not something that anybody really encouraged because it was so rare. And I'm growing up in Maryland, and my parents are very government workers and by the book 9-to-5ers. But my grandma was a China painter.
Wow.
And so she painted plates and little brooches. And so she and I were always creating. She taught me how to crochet. I would crochet stuffed animals, and we would sew, and she got me into playing the piano. So she was very encouraging of me being creative, but my parents were not. They just, and no fault to them, they just didn't understand creativity. It
Yeah.
was eye-opening for me to understand why she didn't understand how important creativity was to her, because it's just not part of her wheelhouse.
I love what you're talking about. And reason being is because I feel like women work so hard to get in the working force. And it was my perspective is the creative is wonderful, but is it going to make you money
Exactly.
in the long term? And I remember thinking to myself, I quite was a wander kid in my mind. I loved art, and it was more of my passion, probably similar to what you experienced. But I always knew in the back of my head, my mom and dad were probably like, that's not going to make you money in the long
Yeah.
run. And
Exactly.
but it was something that I was decent at. But I didn't have anything else to turn to. Did you felt that way as well? Where I know I like doing this and nothing else really interests me, but I got to do something that's going to make money. Were you in that mindset as well?
No, because it was an innate like desire to create, but I forgot about it and got into horses
Yeah, I want to know about
instead.
this.
And
Yes.
so when I was little, it was all about crafting with my grandma and doing all these things. And then once I got into horses, that was like my only interest. Like my piano teacher was begging me, like she wanted me to go to Juilliard. She was like really into me pursuing a piano life, and all I wanted to do was be at the barn. So I didn't get back into creativity until like later in college.
Wow. Okay, talk to me a little bit about the moment you connected. You didn't have horses at your home.
No,
What was how did you get involved in horses?
I went to a camp
Oh, okay.
there was a gal like in my neighborhood, and then I don't even know how we all met, but there was this group of girls, and it was 3 or 4 of us, and our parents did the carpool thing, and we all went to this summer horse camp.
Oh.
And that horse woman, Joan Bosman's at the camp, she was really into 4-H. And so somehow we got into 4-H, and Joan would also lease her horses out because they were all lesson horses. And she would be like, oh, if you want to pursue this, here you can lease Frosty, which was very brave of her because like, to
Yeah.
let a kid who doesn't even know that much take full responsibility of your horse and take them to another location is very brave. And that's how it started. And then we all did that. So it was a group of us girls, and we just went from barn to barn and all leased horses and kept them at the same place.
What?
Yeah.
That is amazing. What a fun
I,
childhood.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
did you have somebody there teaching you about horses, or did you just learn as
No.
you went?
We would take the camp and we would take lessons, but and then 4-H was pivotal. Like we learned all the educational stuff, but applying it was all up to us. Yeah, it was amazing. And we were so into it. Like we ended up that group of us girls, we went to 4-H nationals in Kentucky like for 4 years. It was yeah, looking back, I'm like, I don't even know why they trusted me with or any of us, but we wanted to be with the horses, and that's how you learn. You just spend so much time with them.
Yeah, you throw yourself into it in
Yeah.
early age. How old were you about that time?
I was probably about 13. I think I started going to the camp at 11 and then probably started leasing Frosty about 13.
I love that. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, because you're starting to build your interests. You got tenacity building at 13 going into high school. And you get the horse bug.
Yeah.
We talked a little about this before, and I had interviewed Sally Conrad about the horse gene. You just once you get around
Yeah.
a horse, it's, oh, I got to be around that. And now you're around a group of girls that also are passionate about it. That's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah.
So you went through high school. Did you do 4-H in high school?
Yeah.
You did. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. And then when you were in high school, did you think to yourself, I want to do this is what I want to do when I graduate?
No,
You didn't.
I wanted to find a farmer husband. That's what I knew I wanted the lifestyle. I knew I wanted to live on a farm. The East Coast ranch isn't even a
It's not a
word
thing.
that's
It's
used.
not a thing.
Yeah. So I wanted to live on a farm and raise animals and have all the animals and live the agricultural lifestyle. But I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. Looking back, I could have probably with grants and funding, but like I just thought my only way in was marry and do it.
You know what though? That's a thing. We do think that
Totally.
way. Oh, I'm not I know for myself when I went on to college, I remember my mom saying, go study at the law graduate library. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why? To go find a lawyer.
Yeah.
What? And I remember my women's studies, I was a women's studies minor, and my professor going, I told her that. She was curious as to why I go study at the law library. And I'm like, that's where I'm supposed to go. It was just that's what I got to go do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, it's what they knew. And what we don't know as the possibilities for all of us. Don't you feel like,
Yeah. And the ironic part about it is my mom, she didn't get married until she was like 36. And
right?
she was a very independent. My parents are both like bootstrapped, no college education. And my mom would always tell me like, don't rush into marriage. She wasn't one of those moms pushing it. But I think that honestly, the reason I wanted it was for the lifestyle.
Yeah. I look at all the farmers, the ranchers. You can't do that by yourself. You have to have a partner team. That's a lot to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting you knew then you're like, that's what I want to do, but in order for me to be able to do it, I'm going to need a partner.
Yeah,
Whatever that looks.
exactly.
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 So then when you graduated high school, where did you end up going to school?
I went to Clemson in South Carolina.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that was where you majored in animal studies, right?
Animal science. Yep.
Animal science. Okay.
And I joined the rodeo club and I joined the block and bridle club. Like I was
You were in
all
it.
in. Yeah.
You were in that
Yeah.
lifestyle. No
Yeah.
wonder why you came, and we're going to learn about why you came to Montana. But okay, so you did that. Did you graduate from Clemson with
Yep.
that degree? And then what did you do?
When I was a junior in the middle of my junior year. So actually the desire to be in and surrounded by all of the agricultural people, it ended after the first year because we didn't have the same mindset.
Okay.
Cultural, I will just say like cultural and worldly mindset.
Okay.
And so I wasn't vibing with them. And so then I went full on into being a hippie because that's where my mind was open to like all new experiences, all new ways of thinking. And so I started making clothes as a hippie. I would go to these Widespread Panic. I don't know if anyone knows who they are, but they're a
Oh, I
jam
do.
band. You do?
Yes.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
we would go to the shows and I would sell my clothes in the lot. And so that's when I started getting back into making clothing and the inspiration came from watching Sex in the City.
I love this story. We got to slow down and dive into it because I think it's so great. Was that your talk to us? Was that your first brand? Your clothing that you
Yeah.
did for that? Okay, tell
Yeah,
me a
but
little
I
bit about
wouldn't
that.
yeah, but I didn't have labels or
Okay.
anything, but they were patchwork dresses. And I will say that I've always wanted to make clothing as adjustable as possible because women's bodies are so different. They would all have these apron backs that either tied or cinched, or there would be a way to really adjust the sizing on them.
That's brilliant.
And yeah, so and I would just use sheets. I would go to the thrift store and find sheets. Oh, and I would find Afghans, like crocheted Afghans, and sew those together. And I'm seeing that happening on Instagram right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
And are
Oh, yeah.
just like,
It's coming back.
yeah.
The Afghan, almost like the halter tops.
Oh, yeah.
You did that.
Oh, yeah.
And you just went to these festivals and sold them.
Yeah. And people loved them.
Oh, that I bet you. I bet you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, and the pants, you cut them down the side and open them up. I still have a pair at my parents' house. I did like a whole scene of patchwork on either side. It's like an elephant with like I just went for it.
I love these stories. This is amazing. Okay, how long did you do that for?
I did that for 2 years.
Okay.
And then my parents said, we will pay for you to continue your education. And I said, amazing. I want to go to fashion school. And they said, no, not that. How about like a master's in something? And I actually looked, I thought I wanted to be a stylist. So I was looking at schools that had master's programs, and nobody teaches styling, but I thought maybe fashion merchandising or something. But it wasn't really anyway, that didn't work out. So I moved back home to Maryland. First, I worked at the mall at a makeup counter.
Okay. I love this.
And
Yes.
then I worked for AT&T Wireless, and this was the beginning of BlackBerry. And
yeah.
so I made good money. And I had a friend that had gone to FIT in New York, and I told her I wanted to be a stylist. And she said, absolutely not. You're a designer. You need to go for fashion design. And so I started taking classes at a local sewing shop,
Yeah.
and I made some pieces and I applied. And at that time, I was making these t-shirt dresses. So I would take like a tie and put it on the back. So I'd take like the whole back off the t-shirt. So I made them these like cute little dresses, but I was still a hippie. And sorry, I'm going like completely.
No, I love that. No, it's
Okay.
great. I love this. I love it.
Okay, so we weren't dating, but this guy that would come through when he was going to shows, he had a Bob Marley shirt. Okay. And he left it at my house, and I didn't think that I'd ever see him. And I cut it up into this cute dress, and I put this tie on the back, and it was this halter dress. And then like a few months later, he ended up like calling and being like, I think I left my favorite Bob Marley shirt at your
Yes.
house.
Oh, darn. Okay. And
Yeah. And
was
I
he
knew
mad?
I was gonna see him.
Uh-huh.
But after he saw what I had made into, I can't be mad at that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, wow. And you
Yeah.
obviously didn't end up with the guy, right? But he was like, yeah, sure, take my
Oh,
t-shirt and do whatever because you're
yeah.
freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to back up just a little bit. When you said that you went from, you're in this in limbo stage and you're like, I'll work for corporate America. I'll work at this makeup counter. Were you like in this state of mind of, I got to do something that makes money, but also in the same aspect, like the creativity was always just ruminating in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it took that one person to say to you, because you were probably thinking, what's the direction I want to go on? Maybe I can make money as a stylist. Maybe I can get education around it. But guess what? There's no
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
And then this one person tells you, no, you need to go design clothes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And sometimes it just takes that one person to see who you deeply are or
Yeah.
what you're meant to do in this world. So then
Right.
talk to me about applying or going through the process of getting into the Fashion Institute Technology School in New York.
So they have a 1-year program. I don't know if they still have it, but they do an AA degree and they have a program where if you already have your base classes, because I
Okay.
already had a degree, then you could do it in 1 year. But they only let in 50 or 100 people out of thousands that apply. So I had gone up to FIT because I struggle with illustration. And that was one of the parts of the application is you had to present a collection drawn out. And so I went up to FIT and I sat in on an illustration class. And afterward, I went and talked to the professor and just told her it was my dream to go there and I was applying. And then when I went for the interview, she was one of the interviewers. And she wasn't my interviewer, but after I left my table of 2 judges, I waved to her and I honestly, Julie, my stuff was not mind blowing, but I truly believe in the power of personal connection. And just if you can establish that with somebody and stand out in some way, I tell my stepdaughter this with her teachers all the time. Just establish a connection with your teacher and you will go far.
Absolutely. I think women in general and all types of people, I believe that one connection, even if it was from years ago, can bring results for you in the future because you never know who knows who. In your
Right.
situation, you didn't realize that she's sitting on the panel,
No,
right?
yeah,
And you're fighting against thousands of applications, right? Or
yeah,
applicants. So
yeah,
yes, I love that because I think oftentimes people they're nervous to go meet somebody or to put themselves out there. And I tell my kids all the time, same thing with what you tell your stepdaughter is who cares? Make the connection. You never know what that's going to bring you in the future. They may be the right person to help you because they know somebody to help you. That's awesome.
yeah.
That's wonderful, Laura. I love that. So then, okay, so were you just shocked that you got accepted? And then did you immediately
Shock.
shocked?
Yeah.
Did you immediately start?
No, so then I had to save up because living in New York City for a year, because they were like, this program is so intense, you won't be able to have a job. Like, you're gonna spend all of your time at the school working on your project. So I had to save up because rent at that time, I assumed it would be about $1,000 a month, which I was right, except I was in this tiny railroad apartment with this other roommate. And so anyway, I had to save up. So I sold my car and I sold a bunch of my grandma's because I was living in my grandma's house while I was like applying. She had passed away. And so I really think that energetically living there, I had one of her quilts on the wall and I would just stare at it every night and stare at it every morning and just I think she was helping lead the way. So she had this beautiful Haywood Wakefield furniture and it didn't mean anything to me, but they were collector's items. And so, yeah, I saved up enough for a year of living in New York City and then, yeah, I went.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful that your grandma was trying to get you there. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
that is awesome. Okay. So I love that gives me chills. Okay, so going on to school, we're I picture it like what is that television show where they're
Project Runway.
oh, yes. Was it
Yeah.
like that or no?
No, because
Obviously, you're not competing, but
right.
you're in with a lot of other people that are talented and they're wanting to do something really big, maybe design for a whatever,
Yeah.
a fashionista. What was that like?
I was still like I was like a wackadoo. Like I wore the craziest because I was like a hippie in New York City. And so much so that one of the girls in my class dressed up as me for Halloween.
Oh,
Like,
I love that.
and so we the group of the girls, I think it was like, I don't know, 30 of us or something, and we had all of our classes together. And we formed this really special community, and we were always cheering each other on, and everyone had their own unique style, which was great. Nobody was copying anyone. And of course, like I was just out there. So like we weren't competing. But I remember our teacher would say things like, don't get your hopes up. You're just going to be getting coffee. You're going to be an assistant for a design house. And also, if you go work as a designer for, say, Ralph Lauren or Tommy Hilfiger or whatever, your name is never going to be recognized. Like,
Really?
yeah,
They don't give you credit even though you
no,
designed something for them?
no,
That's bullshit. I'm
I know,
sorry. Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
The only person who gets credit is either the head designer. Or because even if you look at Gucci or any of the higher end fashion houses, they'll have, it was like Tom Ford for Gucci. And so
Yeah.
if you can get to that level, your name will be recognized. But otherwise, you're just a designer and you could have stuff going down the runway in Vogue. You could get stuff in magazines, but no one will ever know who was the actual designer because you're only working for the brand that's getting the recognition. And I thought that was bullshit. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
was always telling the girls in my class, don't listen to him. You can do whatever you want. Start your own thing. And this, you have to remember, this is before Etsy. This is before Project Runway existed. This is before any of that. So I have no idea where that came from, that like confidence, but
Yeah.
I always told them that.
I love that. That probably,
Yeah.
I can imagine if you guys had like a reunion
Yeah.
and they had some conversation, like, you know what? You really helped me through that period and built my confidence towards
Yeah.
whatever it is that they ended up doing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because in a heavily competitive world. Everybody's seeking they're not seeking validation, but they're going to create something beautiful. They want somebody to acknowledge their piece.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What a very and artist and design is so personal.
I know.
Wow.
I
And,
know.
and connected to the inner part of who you are. And then not to be recognized and then have this jerk of a professor say that to
Yeah.
I would feel def, deflated and I knowing me, I would be like, okay, maybe I need to pick something else.
Yeah.
But you were like, no, nope, that's not going to happen.
Because at the time I had started a little accessories company.
Did you
And so
really?
I had the whole side hustle going, but I will say it was a similar mindset. My professor was a similar mindset of my parents, and maybe it was a generational thing, or maybe it just is how some people think, which I can appreciate in a way. It's just like a very strong sense of practicality.
Yeah.
And not everyone is going to make it because it is hard. It takes so much, like the entrepreneurial dream that everyone has is a beautiful dream, but so many people, once they realize like the roller coaster that it is, they get off. And I can respect that too.
Right. But deep down though, Laura, do you feel you have this grit?
Oh,
Number
yeah.
one, you worked with horses. You got to have a bit of grit to work with some horses,
Yeah.
right? You rolled into like that edgy scene, that
Yeah.
rebellion scene. And I think in two, you designed against the grain with some of your outfits and the crochet and everything was always ahead of your time. So
100%.
but that's that entrepreneurial that really are those entrepreneurs that really truly are successful, they have that grit. And I think that's something that a lot of people really need. You're going to get knocked down several times. You got to learn, you got to know how to get back up, wipe it off and keep moving forward. And do you
Yeah.
think it's because you live your life with such intention?
I was going to say the authenticity. I, when I showed up at Rush for sorority Rush,
Yeah.
I wore my Wrangler jeans and my big belt buckle. Like all the girls were like, what is she doing? Who is this girl? And then I show up in New York City to go to fashion school as this patchwork crochet, every single color. I always just knew who I was, my authentic self. And I was never afraid to show up as that or try to fit any kind of mold. I've never tried to fit a mold.
I love that. I love that. Th- That is super powerful. And I hope
Yeah.
people that are listening, they really absorb what you said. Because it does. You're an energy force. And it's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of people that are out there that are quite maybe like they just don't know who they are or what they want to do. And maybe they're wishy washy about what they believe and they just blend in. You're a standout and you're going to move in regards to what you believe in and who you are and your conviction, and it just carries you throughout life, and I love that, Laura, about you. So
Thank
let's
you.
yes, and so let's talk a little bit about finishing fashion school, and then did you immediately start Revive All Clothing, or did it take
No,
some
no.
no, because I wanna learn too
Mm,
also
yeah.
your story of moving out to Montana and
Okay.
becoming a Montana girl.
So first I have to my first company, I made these faux fur boot covers, and that's
Uh-huh.
when I was in New York.
Yeah.
And then I worked for an accessories designer for about a year in New York City after school. And I then went to this farm in Northampton, Massachusetts, and Katrina had just happened. So then I jumped in an RV with some other people and we just drove down to New Orleans to volunteer. So I was down there for 9 months and then I don't know how long I was into it, but I had to create. So I used a donated sewing machine in a tent. And then had all the stuff that was donated coming in, and I used the curtains and everything. So then I created my second iteration, and I called that Sigh of Relief. And
Wow.
then I moved, and that's when the real feminine, ruffly
The
stuff
boho chic?
started happening. Yeah.
Okay.
For me, that's when my design started
Okay.
feeling that way. And then I went to Colorado and Oregon. And then when I ended up in Eugene, my line was called Dress to Kill. And I was very angry at the world because living in disaster land, it was really eye opening in
Yeah.
so many ways. And so I was very into anarchy and shaved my head and went really, what do they call it? Not like gutter punk,
Yeah.
almost like a gypsy circus performer e. So that was that clothing line called Dress to Kill. And then came Revival. Then Revival was in 2008.
I one thing I wanna say is I can tell your psychology, your brain, the way it works and what impacts you, you carry it through your self-expression, creativity. That's really powerful. And I don't know if you recognize, did you know at the time that was your way of channeling it?
Absolutely not.
You didn't. Okay.
No. The only thing it was for me is that authenticity piece. And I have always felt like I want to show up in the world. I want someone to be able to look at me in the grocery store or somewhere and have an idea about my ethos.
Yeah.
or what kind of person I am. Like, for some reason, that's really important to me. Like, I want someone to look at me and be able to see me as at the time it was anarchist, at that time it was hippie, at that time, and all of the associations that came along with those things because of how important the way that I live my life is.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think that's really interesting. And I think it's wonderful because some people just bottle it. They don't know how to channel it like you do. They don't know how to self express. And I think it's really powerful. And I also think it's a good way of telling people where you stand.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So when they meet you, they
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
this is what they're going to meet. I
Yeah.
love that. I wish I had more of that. I'm just more of plain and neutral. And maybe that's something with the way that I think. I don't know if it's more of I absorb all thinking and take it all in. I'm not really, I think maybe I was called Switzerland back in the day because I'm not
Yeah, exactly.
really,
Yeah.
I don't have my line drawn. There are
Mhm.
things that I do. I'm a mama bear and there are things that I'm pretty ferocious about.
Yeah.
But in general, I guess my outer look is more, I just am very blendy. I'm a blendy person.
But that could also be because you are confident in that and secure in that. I do recognize that. I think sometimes the people that are maybe a little more insecure, which I feel like I have been, feel like they need to shout it from the
Right.
rooftops because like they're overcompensating for it. And so I do think that was probably part of me, but I thrive on attention. And
Yeah.
so I also need that attention. And
Right.
a lot of people don't. You may not want to stand out in a crowd or have people looking at you. I want people to look at me.
Yeah. Fascinating conversation. There's a couple things and I want to lead into this, but just even like you connecting with the Montana culture because you were a girl growing up with horses and you liked that vibe of the outdoors and wearing the Wrangler pants with
Yeah.
that's not the culture on the East Coast. That's not the vibe, the style.
Right.
I've always felt for myself, I've never been, I don't even buy trendy stuff. I've always been very plain Jane-ish. And
Mhm.
I did a styling thing. I had a stylist that told me, "Don't walk into a room where your clothes lead you." And I thought,
Mm.
"Okay, maybe sometimes I wanna be that. I want the
Yeah.
clothes so I can just hide behind it." But also
Yeah.
people can focus just on, "How did you put that together?" And
Uh-huh.
but most of the time, I'm just very like, just wanting to blend in and
Yeah.
move along the walls and just be
Yeah.
the shadow person.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I have a lot of mix of people in my life that I'm always like, "Wow," they come in, they lead with their clothes, but their personality is so bright and vivacious, and it's just an energy you wanna be towards. But I think that part of it is beautiful. You have this self-expression and this personality coming out in your clothing, and I love that. And I wanna switch topics, though. So, when you left and you started migrating and moving towards Montana, and that's when you started to shift your previous brand to Revive All Clothing,
What
right?
No, Revival was 2008, and I moved here in 2015.
So, it was before you came here,
Yeah,
and you were located where when you
in
started it?
Eugene,
You were in Eugene, Oregon.
Oregon. Yeah.
Okay, so you're still moving in that west type vibe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what attracted number 1? You told me this, and this is one of the things that I thought was really fascinating, Laura, when we were talking about your movement to Montana, because you love this style and you thought they're not wearing it because it's some sort of fashion look.
Right.
These Montanans, Eugene, Oregon people are wearing it because it's for functionality.
Yeah.
They just are wearing it because that's what the culture is here. Talk to me a little bit about that. I thought that was so brilliant.
Well, so I didn't know where I wanted to move. I just knew because I grew up line dancing and two-stepping and with the horses and wearing Wranglers. And so I did a road trip through the Southwest and I was trying to figure out where I wanted to move. And my friend that I'd gone to college with lived here. And she would send me pictures like from rodeos. And she just kept saying, I think that you might want to try Montana. And so I had never even thought of moving to Montana.
Okay.
But as soon as I came here, I realized I would judge a place. I would judge if I wanted to live in a place by indicators. And some of the indicators were, you know, how much live country music was there. And when you went to see the live country music, were people swing dancing, two stepping? When you're driving down the road, how many livestock and horse trailers are you seeing? And 3, when you're driving down the road, how many people are passing you that are wearing cowboy hats? And so that when I came to Montana, I found all of those things. And I realized that it was the culture because I'm a gritty person and because I have a really strong respect for people with a strong work ethic. And the people of Montana have so much grit and they are so tough and they just work so hard for everything that they have. And it is a real way of life that I respect and get behind. And why I'm honored to even be living here because of my reverence for the all of the people that have lived here for generations. I can't even imagine living here in the 20s, 30s, even in the 80s. There was a huge recession in Montana. Like, I just honor the grit and I see it in myself and I really aim to pay it reverence and respect in my designs and clothing because the way that I design in my mind's eye is for that gritty Western woman that lives off the land and does what she has to do.
You do. When I asked you before, I thought, did you come here and do this because of the Montana culture? And you said, I remember you saying no. But what you just said was so beautiful and just hit the nail on the head for why people move here. There is a massive respect for Montanans, generational
Yeah.
Montanans, and preserving that culture and honoring those people that came way before us. I was just speaking with almost 100-year-old woman that I hope to have on the podcast. She is just awesome. And her name is Bert. And I was talking to her about her because she's generational Montanan.
Mhm.
And Bert was telling me, my mom gave birth in the hottest month of Montana in her home and really no help. She was just there doing it and gave birth to
Mhm.
me. She goes, I look at that. And then her great grandma had to endure the cold months of giving birth. And I
Yeah.
just thought to myself, wow, she goes, I sometimes sit and think to myself, wow, I can't believe my ancestors survived here. And that's generations of ancestors.
Yeah.
And I always think as a transplant myself, coming from the Midwest, we are generational occupation. If you're a generational farmer, we're not a generational Illinoisan or Wisconsin. We're a generational farmer, which means that's grit behind that because you had to be
Mhm.
able to endure crops dying and all the crap with your cattle and weird tornado seasons and things like that. And here, it's just so much more. It is so much more. So I have massive respect. And this is what this podcast that I'm doing is I want to honor those that move here. I want to hear their perspective, why they move here. And then when I do get a chance to interview generational Montanans, I want to hear their perspective. I learn more about the grit and the resilience and what they do to survive here. And even though we have wonderful technology and we have heated homes and air
Yeah.
conditioning, there still is that resilience factor that's been bred in their family lines. That's really remarkable. And you just hit the nail on the head. My next question is with Revive All Clothing, and you weren't living in Montana, were you crafting this design for functionality?
100%.
You were. Okay.
Yes.
And then did you know in 2008, 2012, when you moved here, that there you were way ahead of your time? Homesteading, all these things that are people are talking about now, and they want women that are
Yeah.
building these farms and ranches and own horses and own sheep and all these things. Did you know at the time that this was going to be you're moving to Montana, launching this brand, have this brand available? Did you know that you'd have this type of customer here?
No,
No.
because when I was living in Oregon, I was living on a little farm and we had chickens, and my friend Jesse and I were growing almost all of our own food and canning it. But at the time, we weren't calling it homesteading. We just had a desire to live off the land as much as possible. It wasn't a trend. It wasn't any of that. And then I moved here and I really thought my customer was this like rock and roll motorcycle, horseback riding, tattooed cowgirl. And so that's who I was trying to aim my clothing at. But when I started making my overalls in Oregon, I was making them out of wool army blankets because we were foraging mushrooms in the forest and I needed something that was going to keep me warm and dry. So anyway, I had a big realization at a show one time that, my customer base wasn't biting or there was a disconnect. And I had a shepherdess that bought a pair of my wool overalls. Her name's Lacey Jean. I have a skirt named after her too. And she bought a pair of overalls and wore them. And it was called like Wild Hair Homestead.
Oh, okay.
And she posted about my overalls and it just opened the floodgates and brought this attention. It brought my attention to the fact that there was a whole genre of women living this lifestyle and wanting to live this lifestyle. And then it brought their attention to me. And then I realized, like, instead of me making the clothing that I was making, I started to really focus on the clothing that I would wear while doing those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That's amazing. This is why I love these to hear the history, right?
Yeah.
Of how things come about. And I want to hear not only that, but you moved to Montana. Now you're going from Oregon, which you're already starting to establish your customer base. You have an online
Yeah.
following, right?
Yeah.
You got a website, all these things. Coming to Montana, it is such a different culture and business culture as well. How has that been building your business and your brand in Montana?
I like a lot of my customers are still throughout the country. I
Okay.
don't have as many Montana customers, I would say, as I do Oregon. But Montana, I will say, has been really great to find the inspiration and to be in the lifestyle that I am designing for. And it really has brought that authenticity piece because I think even if I was making this clothing and I lived in Ohio, I just don't think all of the pieces would line up the same. And I do know that Montanans, they have that appreciation for that drive that I have, and they're very attracted to it. When I used to do Radiance pants, the best compliment that I feel like I get is when men come and then come back with their wives or girlfriends and they're like, I think you should wear some of these pieces. Because the one thing that I think still in Montana, I don't think there's as much of the feminine dress aspect weary, because so many of these women that are working their booties off outside, they're wearing their Carhartts or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. But I do feel like it has inspired as much as they inspire me. I hope that I inspire them to bring in a little, or I invite all women to bring a little femininity into their wardrobe, because it is a real special thing to be a woman. And I think that embracing it in whatever aspect you can, it really fills a piece of the soul that is a hole that I think keeps left open if you don't nurture that inner feminine.
Wow. You just answered my question.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yes. Yeah. Cause I do, you, people, you have to check out her website. It's going to be in the description of the episode. But it's so beautifully laid out. There's so much functionality. I love seeing all the pictures of the women working in with the horses, but yet it's just got such a fabric or a fabulous silhouette that really defines the curves of a woman. I think it's just beautifully crafted. But on top of that, you have such craftsmanship and like there's such reinforced seams and
Oh yeah.
durability and functionality. People that are out there going to get their chickens, and you've got this like fun apron type design in the front with pockets and all the things that we need when we're going to harvest eggs in the chicken
Yeah.
coop.
And I want to say that we stand behind everything. If you are not happy with a piece or there's a rip or a tear, I really encourage people to reach out and let us know, because whether we help incur the cost of you getting it repaired or we send you a little piece of the fabrics, you can patch it back yourself, or if you send it back to us and we repair it for you. But yeah, I want you to be able to wear these pieces every single day if you want to for years and years. And that is their intention. They're not made to sit in your closet and be worn once a year.
One of the things I want to point out is you have this really cool, like a belt that holds up your
Oh,
skirt.
oh yeah. The
That's
skirt
like,
hike. Yeah.
how did you come up with that concept?
That's a historic, a lot
It
of
is.
women in the medieval, like Ren Fair scene, they wear them, but it's so practical because I love wearing long skirts, but some used to tie them up if it is too long or if it's muddy out. And so these skirt hikes just hold it up. And I love the way it looks too.
Oh,
And the belt that you can take the links out or put more links in, they're completely adjustable. Like I want my stuff to be practical. I want it to be worn, and I want it to flatter you and adjust to your body no matter what stage of life you're in.
yes. Yes. Laura, you're killing it, man. You are killing it. I love
Thank
this.
you.
I have some real kind of a couple more questions for you in regards to fulfillment in life fulfillment, right?
Okay.
You've done all sorts of amazing things. You really have. Just sitting back and reflecting on your life. And I know you had mentioned that you like to live purposefully. I want to hear from you. How do you define that for yourself? Living a life of purpose and fulfillment.
I think that to do that, or for me to have been able to do that, is all of the internalized self work that I have done to even discover what that means, because I think you can think you're living a life that's fulfilling you, but you're actually seeking all of these things that maybe other people are wanting for you. Getting to know yourself really deeply and getting to know your authentic self, especially so that you can know what things make you happy and not the things that are coming in from other voices or society or maybe what your mom tells you. So for me, I have just spent so much time. If I feel a struggle inside, then I know it's time to start reflecting and figure out what's going on. Because when I was living in town, I was very unhappy because I just knew that I needed to be living the life that I am living now. But even knowing that I could take steps like having a community garden plot, we got bunnies. It was like anything that you can do. So even if your internal self has a strong desire to live a fulfilled life that feels like it's 10 years off, like even just taking little steps in your daily life to start opening doors for that, it really I have to feel fulfilled in my heart in
Right.
order to show up in the world in any kind of positive way.
I love what you just said because oftentimes women can sometimes not check in with themselves
100%.
and they're busy trying to do or people please, or maybe it's not quite in alignment with what they want, but they do it. And I
Yep.
think what you just said is brilliant because we do have to step back. And I think that instinct of, okay, wait a minute, this is being laid in my lap. I'm sure you've had tons of opportunities laid in your lap. Oh, you should do this, Laura. You should do that, Laura. You've had to probably learn to step back, check in with yourself, take a deep breath, and go, okay, is this really connecting with what is going to fulfill me in the long run? Is
Yeah.
that what you do?
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And I think us as we just have to help each other and reminder. That's why I think my friend circle is so important because it's a lot of check yourself, Julie.
Yeah.
That bag, is this really what you want to do? Is that where you want to spend your energy? Because as we age, our energy is so important.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah, and I do
Yes.
this work, it's called To Be Magnetic, and you develop your authentic code and it changes, but it you do a meditation and then so my authentic code, it's 4 words. And so then any opportunity, anything that comes in, it's so easy to be like, does this match A, B, C, or D? Yes. Great. Let's say yes to that opportunity. No, it's not in alignment.
Oh my goodness. I love
Yeah.
this. Do you do that work?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. My last few questions are what is one of your biggest goals for Revival Company? What is one of your some of your biggest goals that you have in mind for Revival Clothing Company?
That is some of my biggest goals. I have a goal of growth, but because I don't believe that you can truly be as sustainable as I wish to be once you reach a certain point of growth in a business.
Okay.
So I have sales goals to get to that point. And I would love to, in however many years, step back and be maybe just creative director, but be able to have somebody else running the company because I want to spend more time with my horse.
Yes, you do. You do. You're like, I kind of want to
Yeah.
just take a
Yeah.
side step, but that's hard
Yeah.
because this is your brand.
I know.
And it's hard to step away from your baby, everything that's connected to your heart and soul, and to give that handing that off to somebody else, that takes a lot of interviews and
Yeah.
spending a lot of time with that person, making sure there's a
Yeah.
lot of alignment. But
Yeah.
yes. Now, if you could collaborate with a brand, would there be a brand that you would love to collaborate with?
Probably, but I like all of the bigger brands, they don't have that authentic American made piece. Like I love the brand The Great.
Oh,
And yeah, and so maybe actually the goals for my business, I want to I just want to go into the shop 3 days a week.
yes.
That's my goal.
There you go.
Uh,
More time doing
So that
the
yeah,
yes.
and I'm going to work from home 1 day a week, and then I'm going to have a 3-day weekend. But I think that I have this mindset that you have to work hard or else like it's not going to succeed or you're not going to make sales and you always have to be working. And I'm really trying to let go of that because I have been doing that for 16 years and like,
Yes.
yeah,
It's time. It's time. You're
yeah,
getting there. You're
yeah,
getting there.
yeah, yeah.
All right. I have my last 3 questions. My first question is, if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
You can do anything.
I love that.
You can do anything. And you are so capable.
I love that. Okay, my second question is, it's a fun question. If you could only wear one outfit for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
If I could only wear one outfit for the rest of my life, it would probably be a long, flowy skirt
Okay.
because I could layer sweatpants or pajamas or whatever I want underneath if I'm cold. And I could hike it up when I'm hot and some kind of flowy top and I need a scarf or a bandana. And that is because if you ever in the backcountry and there's a emergency situation, you can tie a tourniquet or you can use it to clean something up. And yeah,
Look at
that would
you.
be it. Yeah.
You that is how your brain works. It
Yeah.
literally goes
I
into
know.
I can make it look dressy, I can have it be functional, I can also be it can be a tourniquet. Those I can save somebody's life. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing,
Yeah.
Laura. Okay, my last question, which is our signature question for the podcast. It is my favorite, one of my favorite, it is my favorite question. And I just want to say, I love the fact that I met Shauna Whitebear, and she is such a beautiful human being and and she's creative like you are and doing amazing things. I just love watching her growth. And she passed the mic to you. I want to hear her story. I was like, oh, I hope I get a chance to meet this woman, Laura Fisher. And I feel so very honored. I really do. I love what you're doing. I love having a chance to chat with
Thank
you.
you.
And I just wanted to tell you that. So
Thank
before we
you.
get into the question, so if you could pass the mic to a Montana woman to share their story on the IWD406 podcast, who would she be and why?
She is going to be Cress Whitman.
Oh,
She is the most gritty, funny, beautiful, unique cowgirl I have ever met. I adore this woman.
and her name is Cress Whitman.
Cress. Yep.
Cress Whitman. Hey, so is she in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. So I met Chris because I needed help with one of my horses, and she came. Everybody that I asked said, she's the one, she's the one. And she came out and just started giving me lessons. And I was immediately, I hope that we could be friends one day in my head, because the horse world, especially the female horse world, it has a lot of gatekeepy aspects to it. And she has just completely brought me in and allowed me to She's had me come out and work cows with her. Yes. And she knows I've never done that before. And she has a way of believing in you that makes me feel like I believe in myself a little bit more. And
Oh.
she has these studs. So she breeds and she has these stallions. And they are the most well-behaved gentlemen. And they're huge. Percheron, Gypsy Van, or whatever, huge horses. And she just has such a way with horses. And she has her whole other language. Like, when you talk to her, I wish I could write like a book of Cress's sayings, because she has all these sayings and you know what they mean when she says them. But I just think she's incredible.
Oh, that's wonderful. I cannot wait to meet her.
Yeah, she's cool.
She's cool. There's something about these women that it's almost like they came into this world, they immediately connect with the horse, and then they want to know everything. And it's like the horse trusts them, and then they tell all their horse friends.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, go to that woman because she's amazing. And and what you just said, she's going to believe in you, that you can do something amazing with yourself. And it's not just with people, but it's with the horses.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Laura. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well,
she's a hoot. I love her.
you're a hoot.
Yeah.
You're a hoot. I've had so much fun getting to know you. And I hope I will be making some trips to Bozeman for next year when my son heads off to college. And I will for sure come and knock on your door and bother you.
I would love that.
Thank you so much. And all right. Thanks again, Laura.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
A special thank you to our podcast guest. You can find all of her links in the description of this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. You will be notified of future podcast guests. Follow us on our social media platforms and stay tuned for our next podcast chat with an amazing Montana woman.